Hi guys, we're live. We're live. We had a little change of scenery today. It's obviously half term here, which means kids are just running around doing fun things, being a bit crazy. So we're in the office. We're in my office today. See a cool picture there. Look at that. It's me and Scott. Still got the car, obviously. Have to bring the car in so I can talk about it. Other than that, here we go. Nobby was online early. Nobby, how we doing, mate? You're right. James, nice to see you online. Matthew Bentley, how are you doing, sir? And of course, Mr. Headling himself has given us a comment. So how are we all? I hope everyone is safe and well. So today, or this week, we had a few topics coming from Mark, so I'll check them now for you. So there's a few things to talk about. The first was Camber Link tuning. You know, what I do with my Camber Links for different tracks and conditions. So we'll talk about that. YZ2 overview, which I'm going to push back till next week. I think it deserves its own show. I know we've talked about the truck a few times. It's a little dirty at the moment because it went ice skating. I don't know if anyone saw on Instagram some ice skating with my boy, and the truck was the choice of car for me to do it. So it's a little bit dirty. It's not too bad, but I'll give it a proper clean so it's all ready for next week. I just don't want a dirty car online. Grip roll on carpet after landing from a jump. Of course, we can talk about that. And then it goes into current spring damper packages for Astra carpet or dirt, which probably the grip roll question leads onto that a little bit as well. So that's good. We can do that. So morning, Sean. How you doing? Utah, USA. It must be early in the morning for you. Cool. So we'll start with Camber Links. May as well just jump straight into it. 2 minutes past 12, and we can talk about Camber Links straight away. So let's do it. Let's talk about tool drives because it's here, it's nice, it's clean, and it's what most guys use. So we can see Camber Links on this bad boy here. So we'll talk about we can talk about either front or rear. We'll talk about front, and we'll start there. So as with the rear, Camber Links are very important for any condition. You know, if we're talking dirt, if we're talking carpet, if we're talking AstroTurf. A lot of the characteristics can be changed with Camber Links. They affect the way the car rolls, they affect the way the camber moves, and they really affect the way the car handles because of that. You know, the only thing, we have four things that touch the floor, and that is the four tires. So with the way they move going through turns and the way they transfer weight onto any particular tire is the way the car's going to handle. So if we talk about the front, on carpet, we tend to run quite short links. This is AstroTurf setup. As you can see, the links are relatively long. They're in the middle here on the narrow block from Yokomo. They're in the middle one. And on the outside, they're in short. We generally use short on the outside, to be honest. So what this does, so in a way that's kind of easy, there's lots of variables for Camber Links. This is why they can be a bit confusing. But the shorter you go, the more initial grip you get. The longer you go, the easier the car becomes to drive, and your grip will start to take over as you lean on the tire more. So if it's nice and short, it will quickly change direction and it will start to produce grip. So on carpet, we normally use a short link because we want the car to be reactive in its direction change. We want it to be quick between turns. Otherwise, it can feel quite easy to drive, but it's slow. So we have a nice short link to get it to transfer the weight quickly to each wheel and get it going, get it moving. On AstroTurf, I tend to go a bit longer because ultimately you don't want that snap that could cause grip roll, because we do get a bit more grip roll on AstroTurf. So when you create that snap side to side, it can make the car feel a bit more grip rolly. So we go a bit longer just to mellow out the front. By going longer though, you do tend to start to get more steering when you're mid to exit. So high speed, for example, you know, once you've done your turn in, it starts to transfer the weight. The longer the link is, the more the front will start to take over and it will start to turn more and more and more. So that's that. That's our front link. Hopefully that was simple enough to understand. There's lots of variables to this. A lot of people talk about Camber Links and roll centers and stuff, but ultimately, if you don't have enough grip to make the car transfer weight, you need to soften it up somehow. Why is it trying to tell me to leave? Sorry, it's having a little bit of wobble. You need to make it roll. You know, to make a Camber Link work, first of all, you need the grip to be able to make it work. Otherwise, you need to soften it off. Then we go to the rear. Same kind of thing applies. You know, if we're looking for an initial bite, we're shortening up the link. What this does is it gives you that more initial grip. It's gonna, you know, stay nice and flat. It won't roll too much. Whereas if we go longer, you're going to get a car that's easier to drive, but it's not ultimately going to have as much grip. Same as if we raise it up. If we raise it up, we, you know, increase this grip again. So if we're running on very low grip dirt, we would have the camber link nice and short and quite high on the inside. So anything up on, you know, 5 mil spaces they're using now on the inside. And if we're on like a high bike but bumpy AstroTurf where you want to really mellow the car out, you want a nice long link to have a nice subtle rear end. That's the rear end. Hopefully that makes a bit of sense. Also, if you want a car to be very easy to drive, create more angle in the camber links. I'm just looking at it now, I'm just thinking back to kind of experiences I've had with camber links where I can try and make them easy to understand. If you have a nice angle, the car will be nice and mellow to drive, and it will want to go forward. If your link's quite high, you'll produce good side bite, but maybe not as good forward traction. So that's a little bit about camber links. As I said, just make sure, because some tracks, if the car doesn't really roll, you need to get it to transfer weight. So just take that into consideration there. That's that on camber links. Ultimately, I don't want to go too far into it. Like I said, I want it to keep nice and simple. So quick rule of thumb, if you need something more initially, like grip, you know, steering, you need more initial steering, go shorter. If you need more when you're exiting the turns, go a little bit longer. The shorter you go on the camber links, the more aggressive they are when they go. So like if you had a short rear camber link, you get good grip to a point, but if you push past that point, then it starts to become a bit of a handful. If it's nice and long, you won't get that initial bite, but the rear end will be very mellow and controllable. So if you want to drift the car around the track, a longer rear link is good. The same as if I think about 8 scale, I like to run quite a short rear link because I like to have the grip go in. If it breaks away, I can hold it, but when I get on the gas, she wants to go. Whereas if you like a rear end that drifts around, I'm thinking to like John Hazelwood, who likes his rear to drift. He likes a longer link so that when it snaps away, it doesn't bite and square off and go, it will drift around the turn. But ultimately, you do lose a little bit when you're coming out of the corner to get it to grip back in again. So does that make any sense? I hope it does. Hope it does. Moving on. So the YZ2 view, obviously we're pushing it back in the next week. So that'll be our topic for next week, is the YZ2T. Grip roll on carpet after landing. So 95% of the times you grip roll on carpet after landing is because your tires are turned. Now, we can save this with suspension and all that stuff, but that is why you grip roll. So if you're doing a jump, and you can try it when you go back to the track, you do a jump, you land, and you haven't turned these wheels, it has a very difficult chance to try and grip roll. Yeah, it could slap down and bounce over, but obviously that's not grip roll, that's just bad landing. If you jump on carpet and you land with them wheels turned like that, there's one thing that it can do when it digs in. So my hands to the ground, it lands like that. There's only one way it can go due to physics, and that's that direction. So that is why. Take that though, because sometimes we do want to land on the side and use it to your advantage. So what you do with a two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive when you do it is, if you turn it in the air like some cool guys do, so if you do a jump, you turn it in the air, make sure you land like wheels turned out. You can get it to land, as soon as it's settled, you can turn back in. So think about that one. So that's a way to do it. As you can see with my hand being on the floor, it lands, it'll roll out. It doesn't try and do that. Okay. The other thing you can do, which you'll see a lot of top guys, professional guys doing, is trying to land on the rear wheels. Now this obviously, again, does the same type of thing. So if we jump in the air and the car lands on the rear, by the time the front comes down, it's already settled and you can turn. If you don't land on the rear again, you're on the front, and then the same thing happens. So what you'll see myself and stuff doing is, if we have a jump section like EOS, for example, we have like a double and land, and then shortly after it's like a right, we'll try and do the jump, land on the rear, drive down the face, and then as the front wheel touches, hopefully the car's settled enough where it will take the steering angle. You'll see us trying not to steer until the car's settled. That leads me on to shocks, because a lot of this can be to do with shocks, suspension. If you have a very good suspension package, you will make the want of it to roll over much less. So the car won't really want to roll over, and your suspension is because it's helping out. If your shocks are terrible, like for example, you have very low oil or no oil in it, it lands, it wants to compress really quick. Because it wants to compress, it hits the floor, then all that energy wants to go up. So once it's gone down, it hits the floor, the energy wants to go up. So all the car's going to do is slap down. The energy is then firing itself upwards, which means it goes, whee, and that's when it's going to grip roll. So if your suspension's good, it controls that energy on the way down. You get to the point of the floor, hopefully not touch it, you never know. It will decompress less and it won't try and flip you over. Going on from that, there is a way you can avoid it, and I try and teach people this on my training days and stuff that I do with them. You can help the suspension work by the driveline. So a very simple way of saying this is your driveline. You can see we have drive shafts. They go into an axle, which has a pivot point. They go into an outdrive, which has a pivot point. If there is no energy going through these parts, everything is nice and free. So you imagine everything works very free. As we start to rotate these, the two axle points stiffen up. So everything's going to want to try and run level, because, you know, when you spin a drive shaft, the axle doesn't like being like that. It will try and straighten itself out. So if we're on the throttle, the drive shafts and everything are going to try and straighten themselves out. What this does, it creates resistance. So when you land, they have less of a dirt tire these days, more of Astro carpety setups, and less natural suspension, I would say. So this again works there. So think about that. A little play, try and use the throttle when you land. It will help you out tremendously. And that's why I hope that was understandable. Give me a thumbs up if it was, and a thumbs down if it wasn't. And then I'll try and do it again. So yeah, and then leading on from that, obviously I use Yokomo suspension, Yokomo car, Yokomo shocks. One good thing we are doing right now is using the 3mm shock shafts. They come in the YZ4 SF2 kit, and they now have packs available for the two-wheel drive, so you can build them up and put them on your two-wheel drive car. What this does is it has a 3mm shock shaft instead of a 3.5. This allows the shock to work much better without a lot of oil displacement, because with the 3.5mm shock shaft, compared to the actual shock body, they are quite fat. These are still 3.5 on this car. I've been testing shocks recently. These are still 3.5 on this car. That displaces the oil and doesn't make the shock work as good as what it could. The smaller the shock shaft, you displace less oil and the shock is more free and it works better. Obviously, there's a crossing point from when you're just going to snap them every run, and 3mm is about that crossing point. So that's definitely helped. In my shocks right now, I have the 2mm pistons. I have 1.6 in the front, and I have 1.8 in the rear, because this is more for Astro and what we've been doing lately. Some people like running 1.7 in the rear. For me, I've always kind of liked 1.8. The shock works a lot freer. You can run a bit stiffer oil, but the shock still feels supple. And with the way I jump, so with the way of landing on the throttle, I find you can get it to jump absolutely awesome, as well as get it to go around a corner great. If you don't land so much on the throttle and you're a little bit sketched out on jumping, maybe the 1.7 piston is a bit better. Definitely for AstroTurf, the 1.8 for me is always much nicer feeling. It's always supple. It goes through bumps better for sure. And yeah, for me, it's just a better option. Obviously, I think dirt, they're running 1.7. So we don't really do much dirt racing, so I can only speak from the limited experience that I do have. One good thing to always have in your box is the old style piston. So it used to be a little bit thick. With the new style ones, the 2.2 and the 2mm piston, the diameter is larger inside the shock instead of through the holes. This is why it's better on jump land, stuff like that. Even on bumps, it's better. because it allows the suspension to hold it, because we don't have as much bypass anymore. It actually probably feels more like the old 1.7. But if you're looking for corner speed, say the track's not bumpy or there's no big jumps, and all you want is ultimate corner speed, having that blow by, the bypass around the app, it does take a little bit more time to come back because you've transferred more weight, so that it takes a bit more time to come back. But I always found it gives us more corner speed, helps the car to go through the corner a bit faster. So same for full drive. You know, if it's a bit of a bumpy track or it's got some hard landings, I always prefer the bigger diameter piston, the newer ones. But if we're just looking for raw corner speed, the old piston is better. So keep them in your box. It's always a good tuning aid. I wouldn't be without one or the other. I would have both in the box at all times. Springs. I've liked the new Yokomo spring. You know, we've tried a lot of springs in the past. You know, people run associated springs. We've tried X-ray springs. We have obviously lots in our own range. Yokomo, Yatabi. We have silver RP, and now these black racing performer ones. I very much like the new racing performer ones. I have purple in the front here. I have black on the rear, so black on the rear. Very nice. Car's easy to drive. Jumps and lands good. That's where it is really good on the jumping, and very placid and nice to drive. Again, if you do look for corner speed, chuck on the Yatabi springs. The old Yatabi springs, like an orange up front and a green rear, they give the most amount of corner speed of any of our springs. If the track's wet or loose, and this doesn't really apply for the dirt tracks in the US right now because obviously they are like slick racing, almost carpet tracks. But if it's like an old school loamy dirt track or a wet AstroTurf track, the old Yokomo green springs, so you get them in like a DTM kit, I think you still get them in. You can count the coils or look at the length. They're longer than the Yatabi spring, but they're the same color. They're like a browny, bronzy color. But they're awesome if you put them on the front and rear, orange and green again, or if it's green in the Yokomo spring, not Yatabi one, that's your wet setup. That's whatever I put on. If it rains, I chuck it on there. That's the same spring at like China, for example, where Ryan won. We switched to that spring, or I switched to that spring, and we switched that spring quite early, and Ryan took a while to come onto that spring, and then once he did, then he started going fast. So don't discard the old school stuff. Say that spring's been out a long time, but it's still very good whenever you're struggling and you need a spring that's easy to drive in lower grip conditions. It also goes through bumps really well, being nice and soft and long. It goes through bumps very nice and very easy. So there you go. I mean, that in a nutshell is, if you're going carpet racing, you can buy the black springs and you chuck them on purple black or purple purple. If you're on Astro and you've got good grip, I would start on the similar type of spring. Maybe you want to be a bit softer in the rear, but maybe a black or a purple in the front and a green or a black in the back. If you need more corner speed, chuck your Tabis on. Again, like orange green or even red green or something like that. And if it rains or if it's loose, old Yokomo spring, orange, green, or green. Hope that makes sense. I mean, you can watch the video back. It'll be on playback forever now because of YouTube. You can just watch it back. There's some guys on the side saying hello. So CJ, how you doing? Kirst, how you doing, mate? Aged UK racer. I'm not sure who you are, but how are you doing? Morning. I say morning. You must be in the, well, it says UK racer, but it's afternoon. That t-shirt is almost nice, mate. Yes, it is almost as nice as Dunk's t-shirts, but this isn't a factory Yokomo one. We do have some cool Tony Sport Yokomo t-shirts coming soon, which I'll show everyone. They're really nice. Thanks, Dunk. Nobby, so you happy I was first time? Yes, mate. It was unusual. You keep coming in late to all the shows, so I'm glad you're finally back onto it. You're up on top of the list. Quake, how you doing, my man? CJ, same old greens for full drive. Yeah, like with the full drive. Sorry, I didn't explain that, but so if it rains, green, they come in the kit. Chuck them on if it rains or it's damp Astro, and then I would again. The Yatabi ones come in a full drive kit. I think they come with purple green or purple black. They're good if you're looking for corner speed. And like I said, if you're on carpet, you want to put purple or purple black of the RP spring on. So pretty much the same, to be honest, which is quite unusual. Lee Chorley, how are you doing? Always a pleasure, Doug. Always a pleasure. And hi, Yaz. So that's Camber Links done / confuse everyone. That's suspension done / confuse everyone. Was that it? Was that all? I think there was a couple of questions which I'll look now. Mark sent me. There wasn't many. I mean, if you want to ask a specific question, please get on the Yokomo YZ2 YZ4 group and make sure you ask the question. Then I'll answer them here at the end of our show, or during our show. I'll answer the questions. So Steve Bisco went online. He said, "How's touring car coming along?" So touring car's finished. It's put ready to put some electrics in it. I've just got to put some electrics in it, and then I'll give it a run. So that'd be exciting. Rob Andrews, using only 2 gears in the diff seems common practice. Why is this? Is it something to do with thick diff oil used? So, hi Rob. It's not really to do with thick diff oil. No, I've got to be honest. We started doing it quite a while ago, and what we found is it just gives you more natural corner speed on carpet. The diff doesn't try and take over. It feels like, I think it just lets the oil escape to different areas in a different way, which when you're going around sweepers and curves and stuff, it just allows the car to feel a bit freer, and you seem to carry a bit more corner speed that way. Where I don't like it is on outdoor tracks. I'm not a big fan of it outdoors. I run 4 gear for sure, especially in the tool drive. Full drive is hard, a little bit harder to feel outdoors, but on the tool drive for sure, I would run 4 gear outdoor, and if it's bumpy, because I think when you come off the throttle, it kind of locks up a bit quicker, whereas the 2 gear, the car kind of steps around a little bit and then it can catch bumps and be a bit strange. So 4 gear outdoor, 2 gear when you go into carpet. And then obviously we are running quite thick diff oils on carpet now. And yeah, we just run 2 gear with thick diff oils. Allows that little bit more corner speed. So it's a good question, and that's kind of my rule of thumb on that. And that's pretty much it. Anyone ask questions? Disappointing, guys. Need more questions to fill out the last 7 minutes. But maybe we'll cut it early. I don't know. Anyone else want to ask anything on the side? Please let me know. Other than that, we're looking forward to getting out of lockdown. We're looking forward to being able to go racing again and see all you fine people. Looking forward to showcasing what we've learned over the last year almost. You know, I've not been able to do any big races, so hopefully once the world sorts itself out this year with vaccines and stuff, hopefully we'll be able to get some big races and do some good running. Yeah, there she is. I mean, this is my outdoor setup right now. You can see it's a long Camber Link on the rear, nice and easy to drive, and a medium one on front, like we said. The RP springs, 1.6, 1.8 pistons. It feels nice even now. Looking forward to giving it another run. Any explanation on why some people are using associated diffs in DTM3? I mean, yeah, I know some people have been using it. So there's nothing majorly different in how they work. I think it's just materials. Some people are liking to run like a bit softer materials. It allows, I think on high grip and carpet and stuff, it wouldn't be any better. And if anything, it might be a little bit worse because the material kind of grabs and stops the car from being able to move. But on dirt, I think people have liked it somewhat because the material grabs into the diff and it seems to just give a little bit more traction when people need it. That's my take from it. That's why I think people use it. I personally don't, as you can see. But yeah, that's my take. It's just slightly softer materials, which in reality, you know, softer materials are not as good quality, but sometimes it works because the material can actually grab what it's trying to grip, like the drive shafts. Pins can grab into the outdrive when you get on the gas. And I think you see that also where some other diffs do not last as long as the Yokomo one. Like I never change outdrives in this car because they never really wear. That tells you it's a good, very high spec, hard material, but maybe sometimes you need that little bit of bite on the softer material to get it to go. Lee Chorley, how do you find a difference between tapered and flat pistons? I mean, tapered's been used quite a lot. I don't run tapered in temp scale. I don't really run them in H scale, to be honest, tapered pistons. Tapered, all it does is it fires more oil around to the bypass. If you don't have any bypass, what it will do is it will stall the oil, so it works in two different ways. I don't know how much, with our old shocks, if we ran taper, there was quite a lot of bypass. So all you did was you made it really soft in one direction. With other people's taper, maybe it fits the shock better. So what it will do is it will stall the oil in that direction. So I think it's a hard one, but I've always kind of liked the feel in our car of flat pistons. Matthew Bentley, how much camber do you run? Normally -2 is my starting point for everywhere. If I need to tweak it for whatever reason, take a little bit out or a little bit more on the front, I'll do so, but I start with -2. Kirst, can you explain Droop? Oh, I can. I can indeed. So here we go. Here's Droop. There we go. I mean, the simple rule of thumb is the more droop you have, the better on bumps and jumps and stuff it's going to be. When you do transfer weight, though, you're going to be transferring more over. The less droop you have, it's going to be faster in changing direction because your weight's got less distance to travel before it changes. But obviously, it's going to be worse on bumps and jumps. Front to rear can make a very good difference too. If you've got a lot of front droop, basically the car is allowed to pitch and put the weight on the back a lot more than it tries to lift off. So with a tool drive, if you haven't got much front droop, it's going to keep the weight along the front before it tries to wheelie and lift it off. So if you've got a lot of droop, it's going to transfer more weight to the rear. If it doesn't, it's going to hold itself down a little bit more on the front end. Same with the rear. When you get on the brakes, I know it just brakes from the rear in this car, but if you've got a lot of droop, it will transfer quite a lot of weight off. If you haven't got a lot of droop, it will try and keep the car kind of flat. But ultimately, I think most people tune droop for, especially in temp scale, for bumps and traction levels. So, if you're outdoor, you probably want a lot of droop. If there's some big jumps, you'll want droop. If you're on a track without big jumps and bumps, you could probably do taking a bit of droop off. I know a lot of dirt now, they run not much droop on the front so that they can get the car to kind of go out of the turn rather than putting all the weight on the back and then maybe making it squirrely. So yeah, hope that made a bit of sense. So there we go. We are at 28 minutes past. We're almost at a half an hour break. I've been talking for half an hour. Hopefully you've learned a few things. I don't know if you have. I'm just trying to tell you guys how it feels with a little bit of science behind it. My science, whatever. And that's how it feels for me on the track. And I think you'll benefit from having a go yourself with a little bit of knowledge, going out, driving your car around the track, working the setup out and saying, oh, I need a little bit more of this. I need a little bit more initial steering. I'll shorten up the front link, or I need a little bit more exit steering, but the initial's kind of twitchy. I'll make the front link a bit longer. Same goes for the rear. If you feel like the rear starts to slide straight away and you haven't got enough grip, shorten the link off. Or, if it's grabby, but it's really snatchy at the rear end, maybe a longer rear link is going to be better for you. So there we go. Again, thanks for joining us. Thanks for giving us some thumbs up. If you want to give us another one now, why not? But yeah, we much appreciate it. I hope everyone is enjoying their Yokomo rides. For those not using Yokomo, I hope you learned something from today. We're only here to help. Looking forward to getting back out with the cars. We've got a good team around us, some good things going on in the background. We just need to be able to get out there and showcase it, which would be nice. Go over and log on to, obviously, the Yokomo sites. Go look at the official Yokomo page. We've got a good page on Instagram, Team Yokomo. We have, obviously, the group, which all this chat is made for, really, is the YZ2 YZ4 group. So thanks to the guys over there for always being, supporting Yokomo brands and getting us moving forward and keeping everyone in the know with setups and stuff. So much appreciated. Go and like my Facebook page, Instagram page, Lee Martin RC, Lee Martin Racing. Other than that, I hope everyone is well. I hope everyone will be back together soon, enjoying some really great racing. And I'll see you same time next week, 12 o'clock, and we can have another little chat about the truck and then any other questions that anyone wants to fire in. And I'm sure there'll be a poll going up on what subjects we should talk about in our half an hour. So thanks very much, chaps, and I'll see you all very, very soon.